products now, and so that's in the form of paste. And you just mix that with some more water, and you're able to get your palm nut soup on the go. But she has been able to make an innovative product of the palm extract, powdering it. So it's in the powder form, and you mix it with water, and then you have your palm nut soup. And interesting thing is she's visually impaired. And she came up with a solution, and the product is doing so well. It's almost FDA approved, and they are already in Italy, from the UK, and all over the diaspora for this product. And so they're very proud of what we've been able to do with target beneficiary groups like the PWDs. She's been very, very confident, very good about her solution. She is not timid. She doesn't feel like I'm visually impaired, and so I'm not able to contribute to my economy at all, even to my family. So it's been amazing having a number of these SMEs. I can speak about another SME that we have in our portfolio from this project again. Also a PWD. It's referred to as cerebral palsy, and he is creating an accessibility widget for PWDs to be able to navigate the internet seamlessly. And he has a very beautiful product, solid product. It's called the Boafo Accessibility Widget. And he recruited a solid team. I believe everybody should check out the platform after here. And I'm inviting partners, investors, VCs, whatnot, to check out our portfolio from this project. I'm just mentioning that, putting that out there, but I believe everybody should check that out. This came from a PWD, and it's an interesting solution. He's been able to test the market for PWDs at UCC and at UEW, and the response, the feedback has been amazing. So he's still iterating and making a lot of progress, speaking with a couple of businesses and some donor organizations to make this product accessible to a lot more people, PWDs.
Yeah. That's nice. I'm standing up to stretch my leg. Very impressive work. Okay, so what did you see in terms of innovation?
We have a really and VCs, investors who are willing to support these businesses. I want to mention one. I haven't mentioned this one, but when you mentioned the Dunso, the lights out, then this one really came back to mind. So this is someone located somewhere in the central region, Mumford, and he is working on a synchronous self. So it's an energy system. It self-generates power. So it doesn't use wind. It does not use electricity. It does not use water. It does not use all of these other forms of energy, but it self-generates power. And when we met him, it was at concept, but with the technical assistance and access to academia and whatnot that we provided him with, he's able to power a million business. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. I've been trying to find the English representation for that business setup. But you see those who mill corn, those who mill beans, those who mill millets.
Yeah, on the roadside.
Very popular in
on the roadside, canteen.
Yes. And the product he's been able to create is able to power that now. And he has a very ambitious goal. He's looking to power an entire community. And we are working closely with him, but for now he's able to power a million business setup. So
he has the capacity to power, or he has been able to power?
He's been able to power
1 million.
So members were impressed, amazed. How is this able to be done? I think a number of us were also thinking how possible this was, but he is very sharp, very brilliant, typical innovative founder. He has his approach, and so what we did was to assist him connecting with some academia in the central region. So some lecturers and resource persons at the CCTU, Cape Coast Technical University, and did a bit of research to make sure that the technically the product was feasible. And he used his own innate know-how to put it together. So there are pictures of what the product looks like now. It's mobile, really. And so he drives it to the milling center and is able to power. I think he did one for an event. It was a wedding event, and he powered the event. So everybody's really excited. The number of pre-orders for that products.
I would like to know more. Maybe it would have been very useful for me during this period when the light went out.
I'm telling you. I even am looking out to patronize the product so much. I'm really looking out to patronize it. But it's definitely costly. It's capital intensive for now. Yeah, we are seeing how iterations could decrease the cost, but for now it's so handy. So yeah, we are coping with the cost.
Okay.
Yes. So I mean, there's so much we have found in the grassroots, and I invite the government, I invite private investors to pay a lot more attention to the grassroots. What they need is handholding, and I mean, there's so much.
Now, if you were not the one that mentioned that number, if you were not the one that mentioned that number, I wouldn't believe it.
Which number?
The 1 million guys number.
1 million guys. It may have been another speaker.
No, like if it's somebody else who said it, I would doubt it. But I'm inclined to trust that you got the number correct.
1 million guys scouted. I mean, you mean scouted innovators that we've been working with?
Yeah, the guy that you said has powered 1 million houses, or did I hear it wrong?
No, I mentioned, the milling business setup. So it's very popular in communities in Accra.
Milling. Okay. You
mean lots of power.
You mean milling, where they mill, flour mill?
Milling. No, milling.
Okay. I was hearing million. I was hearing million. So I was like, wow. If we can power 1 million businesses, then we must all go and invest.
Yeah, we are still doing a couple of iterations, but the product is able to power a setup with that voltage. So inviting a lot more investments.
Let's go. Let's go into your interview, because I'd like to ask you at least 5 questions so that we can use your time judiciously.
Right.
All right. So what's in from all these businesses that you've worked with and the success stories that you've shared, or what do you see new in the area of innovation?
I didn't get the question, sorry.
Yeah, I'm asking for your new perspectives on innovation based on what you've seen from those people you worked with.
So, innovation exists in networks. That's one of the things that we realized. It's so easy to decide that we are going to find innovators or founders in proper setups where we have deal rooms, where we have pitch summits, and deciding to go on wild, adventures in quotes. I'm speaking for VC analysts and those in the VC markets.
Go for it.
And finding founders who are not the typical founders, and investing in their mentorship, their coaching, product design. You'd be surprised how much value we'll be able to create for the ecosystem. So I believe that the sources of identifying founders have really changed, and so we need to seek out different approaches to identify viable businesses.
That's smart. Have you made this case to them before?
So I think when you ask the question,
okay.
And we are yet to get to a point where we present our portfolio to VCs and a couple other partners. What we've been focusing on over the past period, a little under a year, has been to make them ready for such high-level business conversations, because though we have done a lot of the hand-holding and they understand where they have been at, definitely the founders will have to be in the rooms to have this conversation. So what we have been doing is to coach them, to get them ready for this level of conversations. And a few of them are ready, but not all of them. And so we are just still working on their readiness before we share some of these things with VCs and other partners, financial institutions also.
I mean, as you know, there's a reason why investors and fund managers will prefer to fund businesses from individuals that look like them, and by them I mean quote unquote, because the risk of every investment is a risk. So, and sometimes they might feel like, oh, I don't want to do a lot of work. But you have a valid point. Sometimes also we've seen the ones that seem like all of it, eventually not being the ones that deliver the results. So you should make this case to, I feel like you should make the case often.
Creative ways to go about this, because the value that a lot of these atypical founders have is intellectual property. And one of the things that over time I've realized and learned is intellectual property isn't capitalized, or you don't make so much value from intellectual property when we innovate in this space. So you can work with founders and have them own their intellectual property. When we are speaking of business management, when we are speaking of access to markets and managing a number of things from the business perspective and so many different facets, that's something that you can work with commercial or professional people to execute. So you shouldn't necessarily rely on the founder to do the business management, to do they can have some level of inputs and insights to share in terms of decision making, and that's a conversation that can be opened up. But we shouldn't rule out these people because we think they don't have the typical outlook that the investors are going out for.
Maybe you have found your mission. Maybe you have found your mission statement. And
so I've just realized that for urban innovators and peri-urban rural poor innovators, I have a flair for them. So yes, I think for Green Growth Africa, that's something that I'm looking out for us to drive, so that these people are not ruled out of the case completely. And truthfully, this has been piloted in other areas. So when we look at the global south, in Asia, in India, this is a project that has been experimented and has produced amazing results. So we have a lot of atypical people, locals, that have invented so many products that have been useful to their communities and have been replicated in other areas that have also been success stories. So we need to be able to leverage this as well in Africa and even in Ghana.
Well said.
Thank you.
Okay, so what else is bubbling in your head?
Are we done with innovation? We can move on to mental health, but we can still speak on innovation.
Well, you tell me if you're done. If you think that's all the fresh ideas that you've developed now, then we can move to mental health.
Okay, so I mentioned Green Growth Africa initially. That's where I'm driving a number of learnings from working in the innovation ecosystem over time. I'm also working with Startup Congress, where I am a co-founder. And what we are currently working on, I believe I mentioned this last year, but this is courses for young people. So what we want to do is to democratize startup business knowledge for young people. So developing courses for young people to access on demand, providing coaching, providing mentorship as a service to hubs and to individuals, also providing consulting services. You've done a couple of that over time. So consulting services in business model innovation, in business planning, in sales and in partnerships, and then in team coordination and management. So you see, for a lot of the young founders, what we want to do, what we are working towards, me and my co-founder, is providing very contextual knowledge. So for a lot of founders in Silicon Valley and in other countries where their innovation ecosystem is far advanced, we realize that they are very young. And for those who have succeeded, they have a level of business acumen. And so they're able to negotiate properly with their investors. They are able to motivate their team, and they are able to carry conversations forward. But for our space, we have a few young founders that have been able to hit certain revenue levels and certain vanity metrics in quotes, but we don't have too many of that. And so we realized that it would be important to handhold some founders in critical roles. So when it comes to team management and coordination, some of them do not even know what a product manager should be doing. They don't know what a marketer should be doing. And so they do not know how to mark out KPIs and do a roadmap to be able to be successful. But they have all the ideas, they have done all of the brainstorming, they don't know how to map it out and follow through and execute. And so we are pioneering possibly team coordination and team management for young founders from a very interesting angle. So that's something that we are also working on for Startup Convos. We were looking at launching this earlier this year, but we realized that we had to go back to the drawing board and really pay attention to the courses that we're offering so that they are very cohesive and are actionable so that we can get the impact results that we are looking out for.
Very nice. Okay. We have 20 minutes left, so let's transition to mental health.
Okay.
What do you see on that subject that you want people to take note of?
Okay. So on mental health, I recently am working with the VIA agency, so they're a creative and branding agency, and they have a CSR arm where they are focusing on mental health. Initially, it's titled "Can We Talk?" So breaking the stigma around mental health, driving conversations, opening up conversations so that people are able to dialogue with experts, dialogue with peers, and dialogue with employers about the mental health challenges that affects their level of productivity, creativity, and focus at work. So what we have recently done is to reconceptualize Can We Talk, and it's currently Can We Talk Mental Health for Techies and Creatives. And this is
what is Can We Talk? Hello?
You ask a question.
Yeah, I was asking, what is Can We Talk?
Can We Talk is the name of the title of the CSR initiative. Can we talk?
I see. Okay, go
Can
ahead.
we talk? So it's the phrase that invites and opens up conversations.
Okay.
So can we talk?
Right.
Right. So mental techies and creatives. You know, it's a very complex space. mental health for techies and creatives. It's very demanding to be able to be creative every other time on projects that people, creatives, digital creatives in visual arts and performing arts and whatnot, to be able to churn original, innovative work all the time, especially in a space where, in a time or a dispensation where we have AI, we have the internet, and we have all of these other tools and resources that people can fall back to. So there's a lot of pressure there. And we realize also that Africa has its own nuances. We have our own cultural interplay and all of these things. So we need to be able to own our own narrative, own what mental health is looking like for a space for creatives and techies, and be able to drive some level of research and drive some resources to increase productivity in this space.
Right.
Okay, so
have you ever okay, I don't know if you want to answer, but you said you are driving open conversation about it. So let me ask you. Let me put you on a hot spot. Have you ever felt like you have some mental health challenge?
Absolutely.
You felt?
Absolutely. I am very confident to speak to these issues, and that's one of the reasons that I have backed this initiative and I'm supporting my effort. So there was a time when I had what we know as a panic attack at work.
Why?
And this came from compounded fears and not really paying attention to my general well-being. I was having a conversation with a colleague, and it went there. We began to have certain things, and I realized that certain fears that I hadn't addressed were beginning to come up. So we speak about one thing, I got quite afraid. Speak about another thing, I got quite afraid, and I found myself on the floor. So I had to be rushed out on emergency, and this was because I wasn't paying attention early enough, and so I identify very much with this.
Would you want to unpack what the subject of the fear was?
That's a whole conversation. And
what are we having now?
Because it come up in the initiative and share that as value for my audience. But there are other things I would also want to speak about. But fear, let me just touch a bit of it. So fear of a certain challenge that I was facing at the time becoming bigger than I had anticipated it to be. I was hopeful that it was going to subside and water down and whatnot, but I think it was just optimism, and I wasn't seeking the right medical attention, and I wasn't voicing out my to the appropriate level of management that we had at the time, because of what I was quiet into myself and thinking that we're optimistic. These things should be able to be resolved on their own. And it got me to a time where a colleague began to be very direct and ask me questions on these things and expose me to what's the possible effects and ripple effects were going to be. And I found myself very afraid. And it ended in an anxiety attack.
Do you believe it's been resolved now?
Yes. It's been a number of years now, so
okay.
It has been. Yes.
Okay.
And
you
so
can never allow yourself. You can never allow yourself to get. You can never allow yourself to get to the point where you become overpowered by fear. Fear is an enemy.
Exactly.
You can never allow yourself to be overpowered by fear.
But there's a scripture actually that speaks about fear. It would have been really good to even. I didn't even realize that I mentioned this. I think your question just triggered it, but I didn't. But there's a scripture about fear, and after that experience, it doesn't take everybody. I mean, not everybody has the ability to overcome a situation like that. And so there comes the need for us to open up these conversations and make people aware that these are some of the things that you need to take very close attention and pay very close attention to before you get to a point where you have extreme burnout or you have such experiences like attacks and all of these things. And I'll just say that, when people even experience some of these things, they do not understand the power of conversing. So you go into therapy and people are not really willing to share a lot of things because they do not understand how my mother, I'm not saying that that's my personal experience, but I mean, in therapy, you realize that people have some traumatic childhood experiences that feed into or compound and become some of the underlying influences of their mental health challenges. But people are not open to share these conversations. They laugh about it. But what we want to do is to make people understand that conversations are a very big influence and a very big tool to be able to unpack and easing out your mental health and increase productivity for creatives and techies.
That's good.
Right.
That's very good.
So, thank you very much. I think over time for Can We Talk, we've had 3 events. One was the first time it was a general event, Can We Talk, opening up conversations for mental health. Second one, a focus on creatives. The third event that was just in October on World Mental Health Day, the 10th of October, where we had an event. We had a lead psychologist to come in to speak to a number of 30 creatives and techies about 7 highlighted mental health conditions that we are focusing on this year. So these 3 conditions being internalized perfectionism, neurodivergent unawareness, and identity fusion. And these are 3 big ones. And like I mentioned, people are not even aware of these things. So they are facing it, they are dealing with it, but they're never really able to voice it out. So identity fusion being tying your creative work to your own identity product, and your client rejects it or your employer rejects it, you begin to feel really little. And that is this for fashion designers, is this for graphic designers, is this for find that you and send to your client. This was my work. I put my all in this, and it just sends them into a whole episode that they may not even realize. And it affects their social financial well-being sometimes, and so many other areas of their lives. So we want to be able to appreciate it. What we are doing is we are highlighting some of these conditions so that people resonate, they know how to cope with it, and they know how to manage it. Second condition I mentioned was internalized mechanism is people who are type E and they believe everything they produce should be top notch. Do I have just 9 minutes before we wrap up?
You do.
Hi, Tom. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you do have 9 minutes.
Oh, okay. So I don't want to exhaust my time without speaking to some of the issues or topics that I wanted to speak to. So people can check out Can We Talk at canwetalk.mh on Instagram. We are also present on TikTok via agency. You can indulge yourself in some of these conditions that we've highlighted and understand what they really represent. So there are 3 components to this initiative or this project. So we have the annual event that I mentioned. We also have a podcast series that we are set to launch in a bit. And then we have some content that we're churning out in the forms of of graphics and whatnot, so that we share some of the knowledge and also share some coping mechanisms so that people can be able to manage these conditions. So now it's the podcast series. So